Okay. I switched my style up a little bit and didn't wear a long sleeve collared shirt. If you look at the videos, me and Eric did, thought it was funny. Like every shirt I have is blue or gray, so you just see me like this. Looks like I have the same outfit on like every single time I'm up here. So figure I'd change it up a little bit. But where are we at? Church. Yeah, I know. But so Proverbs 18, but as always, we'll recap 17. Getting into this. Better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than a house full of sacrifices with strife. A wise servant shall have rule over a son that causeth shame, and shall have part of the inheritance among the brethren. And here I used the example last week. A wise servant shall have rule over a son that causeth shame, and shall have part of the inheritance among the brethren. So sometimes when you have a business or a large estate to manage and maintain, some of the rich people's kids, as you've seen before, they've just been rich their whole life, spoiled, never had to work for anything, so they don't really know how to keep everything going and running. So when the families are going to leave the business or the estate to them, they'll leave it to their number one guy in charge of it. Even though he's not a blood heir, they know he'll be able to keep it running and their son's not worthy. So in the late 80s, early 90s, you've seen all these movies like Billy Madison and Tommy Boy and stuff, where the dad died or was going to die and leave the estate to somebody, and the son had to prove his worth to maintain the business. And that's kind of what it's talking about here, biblically. The finding pot is for silver, the furnace for gold, but the Lord trieth the hearts. So we've seen it somewhere. I'm going to call right off the top of my head where it's at. But all of our acts, all of our works are going to be tried by fire. What gets burned up doesn't get rewarded. What lasts through the fire will get rewarded. And this is even saying in the Old Testament, finding pot for silver, furnace for gold, but the Lord trieth the hearts. A wicked doer giveth heed to false lips, and a liar giveth ear to a naughty tongue. Whoso mocketh the poor reproacheth his Maker, and he that is glad at calamities shall not be unpunished. So I use California is burning down right now on all the West Coast and Oak Ridge and everywhere. And some people will say, well, good California is burning down. There are a bunch of homosexual sinners and abortion people anyway. But the Bible says you're not supposed to be glad at their calamities, that their whole place is burning down. Australia, Brazil, everything's burning down for the past like 2 or 3 years. Everything's catching fire, so we are not supposed to be happy that they're losing everything. What if it happened here? That wouldn't be cool. We're sinners too, just like everywhere else. I wouldn't say we wouldn't deserve it if a big fire came and burned down all this, but I'm glad it hasn't. Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children are their fathers. Excellent speech becometh not a fool, much less do lying lips a prince. A gift is as precious stone in the eyes of him that hath it, whether so it turneth, he prospereth. So then we talked a little bit about gifts. Now you can just go to Walmart and buy a gift and give it to whoever, but before you actually had to maybe find some, maybe get trinkets, do the rule of threes when you got stuff. And rule of three being with gifts, if you find something rare or cool from a foreign land or somewhere, you would get one to eat or use or whatever, one for yourself, one to keep, and then one to give as a gift to somebody. Just what we used to do all the time. But the gifts, we'll get a little bit more into gifts in the next chapter. It talks about that too. He that covereth the transgression seeketh love, but he that repeateth the matter separateth very friends. Who has that happen to them before? People go around talking about you and your friend, and then now you and your friend are mad at each other and you haven't even talked about it, just from what other people have said. This is what it's saying. He that covereth the transgression seeketh love. So if you know something bad about somebody messed up a machine at work and now it's broke down, but you don't go tell the boss right away, you go to them and you try to help them fix it, and then you get the machine running again, and now nobody has to know. He doesn't get in trouble, you don't get in trouble. That's good, you cover a transgression. But if you repeateth the matter separateth very friends. If you go tell everybody, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's breaking his machine down all the time, and then that guy gets in trouble at work, that's kind of your fault. You went and told on him, so Shouldn't do that. The Bible doesn't like tattletales. A reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. This one was hard to explain. It's simple, but it's hard to explain. So a reproof, that just means if I'm a wise person and I'm doing something wrong, somebody comes and tells me, I'm like, yes, thank you. And now I don't ever do it the wrong way again because I know how to do it now. But then 100 stripes to a fool. How many times if somebody, you don't do that, you whip them. They do it again. Don't do that, you whip them. Then they do it again. Don't do that. They just don't learn no matter how many times you beat them into that. And that's one way to separate the wise and the fool. And an evil man seeketh only rebellion, therefore a cruel messenger shall be sent against him. And a cruel messenger in this case is a savage messenger, one who brings grievous tidings, such as a sentence of death. It doesn't have to be an assassin. I would think it would be assassin, kind of what they're talking about, but more so maybe a king's man to come, grab them, throw them into prison, and then bring them up to the execution. So if you're an evil man and the king knows you're an evil man and hears you talking bad about him, you will be dealt with, and that is a biblical warning. Let a bear robbed of her whelps meet a man rather than a fool in his folly. Proverbs uses commas very uniquely when you're going through and looking at it. They didn't have commas in the Greek, so when they went over, and it's even still in Old English from what it's translated to the King James Bible, so the commas you have to pay attention to. Let a bear robbed of her whelps meet a man rather than a fool in his folly. This is saying, it is better for you to run into a bear that just lost her cubs, one of the scariest things on the planet, than to meet a fool and take part in his foolishness and his folly. So it is better to be mauled and ripped to pieces by a bear than what can happen when you do business with a fool, because it can ruin your life and go down really bad places. So the Bible, Proverbs especially, takes foolishness very seriously. It doesn't like silliness and going around doing a bunch of evil and wicked, but in a silly manner. So much so that it says it would rather you meet a bear and get mauled to death than to take part in all of that. So, whoso rewardeth evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house. The beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water. Therefore leave all contention before it be meddled with. So this is saying just leave better stuff alone. Leave well enough alone in the bottom verse. But the top one, whoso rewardeth evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house. With this, the only thing I can really think of and imagine is when you're like, chug, chug, and then somebody's like drinking, like, woo, you won the drinking competition and stuff. You're rewarding evil for good. Or if somebody does a lot of evil things and you're like, give him a high five like he's the man and stuff like that. Just typical guy stuff that a lot of us do in our younger ages, but that is rewarding evil for good. So, and you're rewarding evil shall not depart from his house. So if you keep saying that evil is good and giving it a high five every time something evil happens there, it's going to stay. Why would it leave? It's welcome and supported there. So it's very important you do not reward evil for good. He that justifieth the wicked and he that condemneth the just, even they both are abomination to the Lord. Wherefore is there a price in the hand of a fool to get wisdom, seeing he hath no heart to it? He that justifieth the wicked. I use two examples that I could think of. How many of you guys know what happened with our guy there with the shotgun? Do I know who that is? You guys know who that is? Oh, it's a bad picture, but it's Dick Cheney. You remember what happened to him when he went hunting with the guy? They shot him in the face with a shotgun. And so, if you ever go hunt with somebody and they shoot you, that's a big deal. You shouldn't shoot somebody. It's called flagging, and in this case, you accidentally fratricide somebody. So this guy lived magically because the shotgun was lower caliber, and then had to get on TV because of power and apologize to Cheney and his family for the damage and the struggle and the heartache he caused them by getting shot in the face by Dick Cheney. So, I mean, if somebody shoots me in the face, I'm not telling them I'm sorry. They're going to tell me they're sorry for that. But he did it and it caused a big deal just because Cheney had power. So you justified the wicked. Another one here. Who's this brave, stunning woman's magazine of the year guy up here? Yeah, so that's Bruce Jenner. That's a dude. But how many people know that right when all this was happening, right when Bruce was becoming Caitlyn or whatever it is now, I don't really remember the name, that he got into a car accident just driving recklessly and killed a woman. This happened like 4 or 5 years ago. Anybody know that? Caitlyn Jenner straight up murdered somebody. Vehicular homicide. No, you didn't hear about that? It's because they covered it up because the message was too powerful. They justified the wicked by just saying that it never happened. But I'll tell you, it definitely did happen. And you can look it up and see that. There's a certain cartoon. I won't say it now because we're in church. But when this happened in Hollywood and everybody just kind of hushed and put it under the rug, they thought that was kind of messed up. And so they made sure to put it on every episode they had that season of Caitlyn Jenner running over and killing somebody. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, they justified the wicked. That's something you definitely shouldn't do. But it happens all the time. This is just two little stories. A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A man void of understanding striketh hands, and becometh surety in the presence of his friends. He loveth transgression, that loveth strife, and he that exalteth his gate seeketh destruction. How cool is it, like, if you get picked on, you're like, well, my brother is going to come beat you up. Or if you're hanging out with that friend who can just beat up everybody so you don't care, and you just kind of do whatever you want. Like, well, they don't want to deal with Billy over here, so we're going to do whatever we want. Well, that friend is actually biblical. A man void of understanding striketh hands, and becometh surety in the presence of his friends, for them to be able to do whatever they want. That's why you see these rappers and little guys walking around with big, huge bodyguards, so they can kind of be tough without having to actually back it up themselves and all that. He that hath a froward heart findeth no good, and he that hath a perverse tongue falleth into mischief. He that begatteth a fool, which means haveth a fool as a child, doeth it to his sorrow, and the father of a fool hath no joy. Gary's favorite verse. A merry heart doth like a good medicine. So when you're happy, and even medically and scientifically proven, if you are happier or laugh and do these things, it is good for you. It makes your brain release either serotonin, oxytocin, or the other one, endorphins, that will go through and make you happier. So it is good. A merry heart doth like a good medicine. And they didn't even have all those studies. They just knew it back in the day, biblically. But the other half of that verse, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. A broken spirit drieth the bones. We'll get into another broken spirit one in the next chapter. A wicked man taketh the gift out of the bosom to pervert the ways of judgment. Wisdom is before him that hath understanding, but the eyes of a fool are in the ends of the earth. So a wicked man taketh the gift out of the bosom to pervert the ways of judgment. That's just a very long way of saying bribery is bad. How many of you guys have ever been bribed before? Even little things. Not in school, not in business or nothing. Never taken bribes? Like, don't tell on me and I'll give you this. Have you ever offered bribes? Like, don't tell on me and I'll give you this. No? Nobody? All right, we all some good people. Don't know how bribes work and all that. A foolish son is a grief to his father, and bitterness to her that bare him. Also to punish the just is not good, nor to strike princes for equity. So here you get the good quote, and I agree with this to an extent. It is better to risk saving a guilty man than to condemn an innocent one. So in court, you should always lean toward the side of innocent, and even in like our courts and system today, innocent until proven guilty, even though it's not the case a whole lot of times. But If you are guilty and you get let go just because the court case wasn't clear, that's a lot better than if you were innocent and have to do 15 years in prison even though you didn't do it just because they were a little too strict on the court system and all that. Because the guilty person might get out and be like, ooh, that was a close call, I ain't never going to do that again. But the innocent person's like, well, might as well act out now because I'm already in prison. And then now their whole lives are ruined because of that. He that hath knowledge spareth his words, and a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise, and he that shuteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. If you don't know, you can say you don't know, and that is smarter than saying you do when you don't. Does that make sense? Silly or as ignorant as it implies when you say I don't know. All right, that was 17. Moving on to 18. I'll take a sip of coffee right quick. I think this is the most I talk at one time all week, so my voice has to that. Maybe Thursdays. Okay. A lot of weird stuff going on in the world right now, right? Even in Christianity, I don't know if you guys pay attention or look at a lot of the other Christianity stuff. But if you ever pay attention to the people who aren't Christians, what they think about Christianity, you'll know exactly where they're getting all of it from. Like, oh, well, pick your poison, God loves everybody, yada, 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 all that stuff, right? Well, now I got you some scriptural backing for when you try to talk to these people about it. Proverbs 18, we'll start at 1. Through desire, a man having separated himself seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. A fool hath no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. When the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt with the ignominy reproach. So let's break that down a little bit. A fool hath no delight in understanding. We don't care about what the Bible says about all of it. We want to let our hearts discover themselves. How many ways can you twist that all to pieces? Well, my heart tells me this. Well, my heart tells me that. It's about what's in my heart to discover it itself. Because I'm a fool and have no delight in understanding is what the Bible's saying. So then you see it's everywhere. Discover yourself. Discover who you really are. Discover or find yourself through yoga. It doesn't look like you found anything but weird twisted arms. Meditate, align your chakras to find yourself. I've seen it said in the Roman quote that life's not about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. And I was like, yeah, that's a little better. But then biblically it's just like, no, through desire, a man having separated himself from all of that, seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. And intermeddleth even means like kind of debate, struggle, and look through. It doesn't mean it just all hits you at once. But you look for it and you kind of poke the tree to see what comes out or not, what lasts with it. And you intermeddle with all wisdom. But if you're foolish, you just take it out and do whatever you want. Do as thou wilt. I'm just trying to discover myself. Life's not about discovering yourself. Life's not about creating yourself. You were already created once to do. Life is about getting you back on track and getting back in line with what you were already created to do and doing it the best way you can. Because when wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt, and with ignominy reproach. And ignominy just means contempt or shame, a shameful reproach. Once you get out and you realize that when you were finding yourself, you weren't trying to find yourself because you were always sitting right there wherever you were looking, and you just didn't like what you found, so you thought there was another you in the closet somewhere that was better that you were looking for, and that's just not the case. I'm sorry. You're the you that's sitting there right now. You can make it better or worse, or, keep sitting there and wishing. The words of a man's mouth are as deep waters, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. So there is no end to wisdom if you look for it. You'll keep finding it and keep finding it for forever. And it is not good, it is not good to accept the person of the wicked, to overthrow the righteous in judgment. Here's those weird commas. So this is saying with the comma, it is not good to accept the person of the wicked or to overthrow the righteous in judgment. So churches should accept everybody for who they are. Nope. Not if you're wicked. We don't have to accept you. We shouldn't accept you. We'll help you get back on the right track, but doesn't mean we have to accept you the way you are. Well, God loves everybody, whether you like it or not. I don't know if you know how many people God's killed biblically, but it's a lot more than you guys are capable of. And why? It's because they weren't in line with Him. Don't think God's just all loving, you can do whatever you want, and you're a fine person. That's what gets you in trouble. Well, God's not the only way into heaven. You know, as long as you're a good Christian or a good spiritual person, you can be Islam, Jewish, Christian, another Islam, a sailor. I don't know what that last one is. It's like a sailor's will or whatever. But yeah, it is not good to accept the person of the wicked or to overthrow the righteous in judgment. The righteous have no place in any judgment anywhere anymore right now. That's why we're in the pickle we're in. We have been overthrown. That is not good. But it is not good to accept the person of the wicked. Well, love the sinner, hate the sin. This says don't accept the person. Doesn't even say anything about their sin. It says don't even accept the person of the wicked. So don't bite the apple. Don't bite the apple. That's what it comes down to. Now you have backing if anybody ever says all this stuff against you. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes. A fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. The words of a talebearer are his wounds, and they go down into the innermost parts of the belly. He also that is slothful in his work is brother to him that is a great waster. Speaking of wasters, we have a lot of waste in society now. Plus a lot of things. Even myself, I notice I have a lot of trash sometimes. I'm like, why is everything wrapped up in like 100 boxes and all that? So if you ever, and the Prohibition people, even in college and all that, some of your all's grandmas maybe that lived through the Great Depression and all that, you know how they like saved everything, almost to kind of like a hoarder extent, if they had cans and all that. That's because they went through a period where they didn't have anything and they don't ever want to do that again. So, but then nowadays in society, we, wrap bananas in plastic before we sell them, as if they didn't already come with a natural, sturdy case to keep the fruit clean or anything. It was just so funny to me. But it comes down to a waste not, want not. Y'all heard that before? Waste not, want not. The name of the Lord is a strong tower, the righteous runneth into, and is safe. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, and as an high wall in his own conceit. Before destruction the heart of man is haughty, and before honor is humility. So this is what we're saying. We have a strong tower of the Lord that we can run into, and it's safe. It's going to keep you safe. Maybe not necessarily from somebody beating you up or all that, but spiritually, you know where to confide in and you know where to come back to stay safe in your judgment and in your mind and your thoughts. A rich man's wealth is his strong city, which is different than ours, and as a high wall in his own conceit. So he thinks he's safe within his high walls, because if I wasn't doing everything right, why would I have all this stuff? Why would I have all these blessings from God if I wasn't doing the right thing? But before the destruction, the heart of man is haughty, and before honor is humility. You know what haughty means? I went over it before. Does everybody remember that? Okay. He that answereth the matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. I don't even know how you do that. So just like, hey, this guy, I don't like him, kill him. Oh, okay. I guess. I don't know what it's talking about here, but I know sometimes it's hard to get like full sentences out when you're talking to people. They're just constantly on the ramble, and it's hard to get a word in when you're talking with them. So I don't think that's necessarily what I was talking about, but I guess this could be best taken as, if you're doing something and you're hearing somebody out, hear all of it out, study it, think about it before you make any decisions. because it is a folly and a shame unto him if you do make a decision before you really get all the details or all the knowledge. You need to make the decision. The spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity, but a wounded spirit, who can bear it? Who can bear a wounded spirit? This is saying biblically, everybody that is brokenhearted or going through a hard time, it's very hard for them to bear. So the spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity. So you will stay on the right path and all of it, but you can still have a broken spirit. And the heart of the prudent getteth knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeketh knowledge. So you got to be seeking knowledge and seeking wisdom at all times with it. That's the same guy that made the cross thing that we have on all our stuff on the background. A man's gift, back to the gifts, maketh room for him and bringeth him before great men. I have a great gift for the king. Welcome into the chamber, and then they'll let you in to see the king because you have a gift for him. He that is first in his own cause seemeth just, but his neighbor cometh and searcheth him. The lot causeth contention to cease, and parteth between the mighty. A brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city, and their contentions are like the bars of a castle. So I bring in to see the king with my gift. I give the king a gift and say, King, I give you this gift. I have a land dispute with this guy over here. It's my land. My grandfathers rewarded it by your father back in the day. And now he's putting his cows on it. And the king's like, well, thanks for the gift. We'll take care of those cows right away from you. Now you're at a part with your neighbor. So you made right with one, made an enemy with the other one because of your gift. And then this gift you can try to, the lot causes contentions to cease and parteth between the mighty. But a brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city, and their contentions are like the bars of a castle. So you can try with presence to mend the offended brother, but even still, it's going to be a very powerful statement, more powerful than it is that I read it. But death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Even Jesus said, it's not what goeth into the mouth, but what cometh out. So he even acknowledged the power of the tongue. How did you cast out demons? He didn't snap his fingers and demons came out. He spoke with his mouth, said to come out. He spoke on everything that he did. He spoke it into existence and it came out. So, whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor of the Lord. Solomon said with 500 of them. But so that was kind of funny. Paul also said it is, if you can, to not marry. So there's a little bit of differing opinions between these two and that. But one had a lot of wives and one didn't have any wives that I know of. I don't know if Paul had a wife or not, but if you do find a good wife, you should count it a blessing to the Lord. Like, thank you, God, for sending me this good wife. So, because man and woman, they do kind of play off of each other in a good marriage. Women are a lot kind of softer hearted and all that. Men are starter bush. So if a wolf attacks the farm, men, it's your job to go out and kill them. And then when your kid gets scared, they don't run up to dad when they're scared, like, oh, Dad, help me. You're like, get out of here, leave me alone. Stop being a girl. No, they go to their mom to get that. You kind of need both to raise it. But the poor useth entreaties, but the rich answereth roughly. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than any brother. Talking about your best friends, talking about Jesus' friends, talking about all these friends that'll stick with you. But if you want friends, you gotta be friendly. Gotta be friendly. Don't be mean mugging me up here. But that is Proverbs 18. Finished a little bit quick, but that's all right. Any questions?